Greetings, denizens of YouTube, and welcome back to my studio. Today on the bench I've got this Luffy statue of the Monkey D variety from One Piece, and yeah, it's pretty cool. It's got these transparent bits and his crazy anime eyes and cursed fist, whatever's going on up here. But yeah, it's a pretty rad statue, and if you would like to see how I made this, stick around. Let's get into it. So with all the parts off of the printer, washed and cured, I go about the task of sanding and assembling the pieces. First up, I like to start at the bottom, work my way up. So I started with the plinth, cleaned off the support marks, gave it a good sanding, and started to fit the pieces together. The rocks were a bit of a challenge because the way they fit together did not want to work with super glue. So too many little nooks and crannies, I guess, and just kind of the way that the pieces were cut up. There wasn't good solid contact points. So I ended up using a 5-minute epoxy, which is the first time I actually ever used this stuff, and it's pretty good. Once you get it on there, it's not going anywhere. So got the rocks all assembled, stuck together, gave the legs a little bit of a trim. Another one of the problems I ran into with this model was that a lot of the parts were fluted, sort of where the parts came together. So it makes for a nice seal, in the original 3D sculpt, for sure. But in real life, the resin isn't flexible enough to get around those tight spaces. So just kind of had to force those in there and open them up a little bit, sanded them open. When there was some heavy-duty files, and just kind of opened up the connections a little bit. But after a little bit of labor, I was able to get it to all fit together, and did a quick dry fit just to make sure it works, and here's what the dry fit looks like. Next, I filled the gaps in the base with plastic wood and resin. Don't forget to wear your safety goggles, kids. Do not want to lose an eyeball. So with the resin applied, I sanded down the pieces and finished the prep work on the body parts, and got everything ready to go to prime it. I channeled my inner Vlad and put the body parts up on sticks, and then it was ready to go into the spray booth. So for this project, I actually ended up using 2 different primer colors. I used the black primer for the base parts and a white primer for the body. I knew that the body was going to be more brightly colored, sort of an anime style. It's not my normal style, it's not what I normally do, but I felt like this was the right path to take. Once I was done primering, I picked out my paint colors and was ready to get rolling. So I started with the rock base, and this time I tried a new technique. Instead of my old technique of airbrushing a gray over the entire rock surface and then adding a wash to kind of add some darkness back into the crevices and then seal it, this time I just went in with a dry brush right on the black primer and was able to kind of get the same effect with much less paint and much quicker amount of time. I wish I could remember where I saw this tip. I saw someone else do it, and I thought it was just a great idea, and this was the first opportunity I had to try it, and I recommend it. It's a good, fast, easy way to get the same effect on rocks without all the extra work. After I was done dry brushing the grays on the rock, I went back in with a bright white and just hit the tips of the rocks just to give them a little more contrast. And speaking of contrast, I went in with a panel liner to kind of give those depths, a little more depth. But like I said, the technique overall saved a lot of time, and I think this is how I'm going to do rocks moving forward. With the rocks done, I base coated the remaining pieces. The plinth I base coated with a flat brown. The jacket was Vallejo's Dragon Red, and the pants are just a Vallejo Dark Blue. Since these pieces were small, I opted to use a brush to base coat everything. I ended up taking about 3 coats to get the coverage of the red and the blue. For his belt sash thing, I painted that in Army Painter Phoenix Flames, and it's a little bit of a darker yellow, but I went back in and dry brushed kind of the highlights with a brighter, I think it's called Demonic Yellow, later on. And then I gave his hat a base coat of the flat brown from Vallejo. I moved on to base coating this cloud looking thing. I'm not 100% sure what it's supposed to be. In the reference material, it was black smoke, I guess, but I didn't want it to be black, so I base coated it in ash gray, and then later dry brushed it with some white. Then I moved on to base coating the body parts with Vallejo Brown Rose. While I waited for those to dry, I base coated the emblem, the masthead. I don't know exactly what you want to call this, the little decoration on the front of the statue. I don't know if it's supposed to be a lion or what, but I just kind of followed the reference photo and painted it with a kind of a sand tan brown, and then a little bit of a Vallejo red leather for the hair bits on this weird face thing. I don't even know what this is. It's got a lion looking face and some bones and a bright yellow ring around it. So I painted the yellow ring with the demonic yellow. I left the black on the inside, and it's got big black soulless eyes. So I painted those, and we're just gonna move on. Then it was back in the spray booth to finish the body parts. I coated them in a basic flesh tone from Vallejo. I wanted to keep the rose color in the shadow areas, but at the same time, this is kind of an anime skin, so I didn't do what I normally do for skin tones, and really just use these 2 colors to kind of keep that bright anime skin tone look. After the skin tones were dried and sealed, I got into some detail work. I painted his sandals, little straps on his sandals. I dry brushed the hat, painted the little buttons on his jacket, and just generally speaking, kind of went around and finished the base coating of the smaller areas on the body, as well as the big scar on his chest. That I painted with the brown rose again, and then I went in with a brighter red in some short strokes, and then again with the rose to kind of give the illusion of the kind of the muscle fibers in there, give it a little darkness in some of those spots, just to give it a little more detail to his kind of very prominent chest scar. So focusing on the portrait now, I base coated the hair in just a gloss black, and the teeth and the eyes in white, and again, just kind of keeping this really super simple since it's just kind of an anime style. I did have to go in my magnifying glass to get some of the smaller details around the eyes and the mouth to get in there, and just to get a fine line on the teeth and around the lips. Again, it's not a typical statue skin color that I'm doing here, so I'm just kind of keeping it very simple, and I'm getting to move through it kind of quick. So finishing up the solid pieces now, I am back on the shorts and giving them a quick mask around the fringe parts and his sash belt thing, masking that off with some masking tape, and dry brushing the shorts with a sky blue, just on the highest parts, again, just to give them a little contrast. The right arm is a black, kind of an airbrush fade back into the skin tone, and I also hit that with a little bit of purple, just to give it that purpley black cursed hand look that he has. I did that off camera because I wasn't moving things around fast enough. With all that done, I sealed the body parts and then went back into the plinth and gave it just a little bit of a panel liner wash in the panels, of course, then also in the little crevices where the metal meets the wood. I wanted to give that a little bit of a dirt grime kind of in those corners. And finally, the part we've all been waiting for, unless you were smart and you used the chapter markers to jump ahead, is the tinting of the transparent pieces. There are a couple different ways to do this. I finally landed on a process that works for me, and it took me a really long time to figure this out as a beginner, and an embarrassingly long amount of time. I don't even want to talk about it, but this is where I landed with it, and so I hope it helps you out. First things first, make sure you have alcohol ink and not resin tint. I learned the hard way that resin tint and alcohol ink are totally different things. You're also going to need a UV light, a little hand torch, and UV glasses. Don't forget safety first. With that, the first step in the process is after letting the resin kind of just drip dry off of the resin parts for a couple days, is removing the supports. So you just kind of go in there with your nippers and carefully remove the supports as best you can. End up with a nice little pile of supports. Don't forget to cure those before you throw them away. After that, you get these very crystal looking shiny parts, and you want to cure them just a little bit so that you can, they're safe to work with. So first I cure them with a hand torch just for a couple seconds so they're not sticky, because you don't want to put them into your curing station or your cure box and have them stick to the box or the plate or whatever they're sitting on. So I like to hand cure them for just a couple seconds and then put them in the curing station I go for about 2 minutes. I use an Anycubic clear resin, and I found that any longer than 2 minutes, then it will start to yellow. So after that time has elapsed, I go back to the preparation of the pieces, and that is sanding the support marks down. However you want to sand is fine. I definitely recommend using a highest grit sandpaper that you have, 1000 grit, 1500, something like that. So people work their way up through the sanding grits. I don't necessarily do that. I just kind of go right back in there with a 1000 grit and just kind of call it a day. The support marks are really, really small, so it's not like a huge thing. I also got this really cool new pin grinder recently, and I was very excited to use it on something, and so this was a perfect use case for that. This grinding pin has these little 5mm sponge sanding discs, and it charges with a USB-C. It's a great little tool. It's got a lot of torque. It does a great job. So I'll put a link to it in the description below if you want to check that out. I'm not getting any sort of payment for any of that. It's a really cool tool. Thought you should know about it. Once I'm done sanding, I like to give the pieces a spritz of alcohol and a little bit of a dry wipe just to clean away any debris or dust for the next step, which is to apply a thin coat of clear resin. So make sure you're wearing a mask and gloves, and take a little bit of the clear resin and an old paintbrush and just kind of brush it over the part. You just kind of basically just want to give it a nice coat. And then I like to give it a couple seconds to sort of settle, because there'll be brush strokes in it. So give it a couple seconds to just kind of settle, and then use your hand torch to lightly cure them one more time. The next step is to apply the alcohol ink. I'm using an airbrush here, but a regular brush works fine. And the ink goes a really long way, so a little will do a lot. Just wanted to caution you on that. Once you get the resin tinted to your liking, the last step is to seal all that goodness in with a gloss varnish. I like to use the Vallejo Premium varnish for this. It takes a lot longer to dry than the Army Painter varnish. So after we get this on there, you really want to let it sit for at least 4 hours. But the gloss really kind of brings back the brilliance of the transparency. Since this is going to be a gift, I wanted to give it a little bit of an extra finish. So I found this really cool piece of artwork online, and I printed it out and applied it to the bottom before moving on with the rest of the assembly. And after gluing in the last magical cloud bit, I call this statue done. Thanks for watching this video. If you made it this far, you might enjoy hanging out with me on my live stream. I live stream all my work sessions when I'm in the studio. So hit subscribe so you'll be notified when I'm online. And until then, take it easy.